continue with Standing Promises again, and we are at the final chapter of our Unburdened. Whoop, whoop. We're the final chapter of Unburdened, which is chapter 12. So if you've stuck it out with us, this is the 12th week we have done this, and we appreciate you guys tuning in and listening in. And again, if you haven't bought a copy, it's Vance Pitman, and it's a really good book about connecting and changing our kind of viewpoint from having a religion, which is just kind of a Pharisaic mindset of rules and like things that we think we have to do, and transferring all that to a relationship with Jesus Christ. So anyway, and so the three sections we talked about abiding in Christ, and that's just that connection that you have with Christ, and through that your actions, your speech, everything should emulate Christ himself. Then the next set of sections was talking about connecting with other believers, just as a support system, connecting with them in study time and different things like that, and prayer. And then the last thing, the last section was about sharing and going out and basically being a disciple, whether it be through mission, whether it just be just serving in your communities or whatever. So anyway, it's a really good setup for this final chapter, and then we'll finish it up, and then we're going to start another book study here soon, okay? We'll let you guys know in a little bit about that. So, all right, so here we go. Okay. Chapter 12.
Chapter 12 is called the 5% Life Challenge. And so he's going to give us kind of a formula of not a target or a goal, but just an idea of maybe a starting point for how to spend our time so that we can build those relationships, the relationship with abiding, the relationship with connecting, and our relationship with the world, sharing. But the first thing he says is Jesus Christ does not want to be our helper. He wants to be our life. And I think that's such a different way of thinking. We do, like, when we get in a bind or when something's going wrong, that's what we're like, Jesus helped me through this. Or
right.
And he doesn't want to just be there for us. He wants to be there for us when we have a problem, or he wants to rescue us when there's trouble, but he wants to not just be there when there's trouble.
When there's a trial,
he wants to be all the time in every part of our life. So, and the whole book has been about our relationship with the Father spills into our relationship with other believers, spills into our relationship with the world.
Right.
And none of that happens without spending time. And that's kind of his point. And, first reading through this and seeing, he gives us 1% of this and do this for this amount of time. And it starts to look a little bit religious, like I have to do these things.
Oh, yeah, right.
But he's just giving you some ideas of, you have to spend time in a relationship. So here's some ways to focus to make sure that you're spending time. And what I've noticed, or what I feel, is when the more time I spend, the more time I want to spend. And so if you have that starting point, it gives you a direction to go, and then you just build from there.
Right, absolutely. Yeah. So,
it's like every other relationship. You have to invest time in it. You don't, he talked about in one of the very first chapters about getting married. And what if you're going to marry someone and you're like, okay, I'll check in with you on Sunday for an hour.
Right.
And then maybe on Wednesday night I'll give you a call too. And then, see you. You don't do that.
Yeah.
That doesn't build anything.
No, there wouldn't be very many relationships that would last through that.
Right. So that's the biggest thing that he's talking about in this chapter, is just how to invest your time so that you can invest in those relationships and build them.
Yeah, I like that.
So he gives us 4 ways to do it. He talks about God time. That's the time that we spend alone. And I think that's the key word, the time we spend alone with the Father.
Yes.
A lot of times we get busy and and we forget to spend that alone time. And so that's the first place we need to invest our time. The second thing he says is gather time, which is our time that we go to church, when we gather together with other believers and worship together with them.
Right.
Then group time is basically small groups, spending time with, just a smaller group of people that know you more intimately and, can walk with you through life, not just your church family, but then there's another core group of that. And then go time is what he talks about, going on mission.
Right.
Our whole life is on mission, but to intentionally focus on that for a period of time is the go time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, he kind of broke it up into percentages. So like what she just talked about, like your God time, that alone time with God, he said. And if you really look at the perspective on this, it's really not that much time. It's kind of like when tithing is 10%, and it kind of sounds scary, but in the same token, it's like it's really not that much, and you really, miss either the money or the time, or either one. But so it says with the God time, 1% of your day, which equates to about 15 minutes. That's doable. I think all of us can, give up 15 minutes if we're not making that a daily thing. 1% of your week, which equates to about an hour and a half, which is your, that's the gather time, which is about a church service, Wednesday night service, something to that effect. 1% of your group time, which is,
of the month.
Yeah, or I'm sorry, 1% of the month with group time, which is like your, small groups, or just, connecting with other believers in that capacity. 7 hours a month. So that's not really that bad. And then the last one, because it's a 5% life challenge, so the last one is 2% of your year, which is only 7 days. So, that's a very, very, very minimal.
On a mission somehow.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily mean going overseas on a mission trip,
right.
But maybe you're serving in the soup kitchen, or you're,
maybe you help build a house with Habitat for Humanities, maybe you go help at Shared Blessings, maybe you, serve at a soup kitchen. there's multiple charities and just organizations that are doing things in our community, which is awesome. And so, if you can get involved that way, it's definitely a good thing to get involved with.
Yeah, and and that's 5% is his challenge. So when you break down the 15 minutes a day, again, you have to be careful. This isn't it's not a have to. It's not a rule.
A set of rules.
It's not a set thing like, oh, I only made 10 minutes a day. I didn't.
Right.
It's not about that. But your 15 minutes a day too may look different. It may not always be 15 minutes of praying straight through, because there are days when getting out 2 or 3 words of a prayer is all that you can do right then. But maybe on those days it's more worshiping, turning on some music to worship, or just sitting and meditating on how you're feeling. Or it may be our prayer may not sound very prayer-like. It may sound like, arguing with God, or just pouring out your heart, telling him how you feel. And, but, the 15 minutes of God time, we have to be careful not to make that religious. Or to substitute that and say, well, I spent my time. It's not a check off, but it is just,
just a place to start.
Just like you would call someone, call your best friend on the phone, call your mom on the phone, like, okay, I'm going to check in and just take some time. And, and like you said, the gather time is basically, that's about the length of at least in our church, our service. If you count worship and then the message, and, but it's about that hour and a half time right there. So you know, that comes pretty naturally even if you just go to church once a week.
Right.
You know, you're spending that time. Now, what are you doing when you get there? That's a whole other level.
Right,
Of, you know, that's where it becomes religious or relationship. You know, are you just and we talked about that in that chapter about you know, are you just going and checking off I went, or are you participating and engaging in the worship?
Right.
So, anyway,
So anyway, that's kind of how this whole book was concluded. So, I mean, it's a pretty, like I said, it's a pretty simple little concept to kind of focus on, but definitely, you know, the abiding, the connecting, and the sharing, that's definitely his focus throughout the whole book. And I like how it all kind of came to a head at the end here. And so anyway, I mean, that's really kind of how it ended. So.
And yeah, and if you're going to go through this book with either on your own or with a small group, I'd highly recommend the study guide too. It was really good to help the first time we went through, just to think a little bit deeper.
Yeah, it's got some different kind of more personal questions. Yeah, it's got some more personal questions about your personal walk with Christ, and so yeah, it lets you dig a little deeper than just the book study. But it is a good read, and it's definitely got some good principles in it. So definitely check it out if you haven't followed us. You know, go back and watch them, and like I said, pick up a book and do the study. It's a good read, and especially if you feel that pressure, like you're stuck in like you feel burdened by your faith or whatever. It's definitely a good book to read, because I think a lot of us fall in that trap. Like she said, it's like it's just a checklist. Oh my gosh, I gotta go to church. I gotta do this. And you know, God doesn't want that from us. He doesn't want his love for us to be a burden to us. So, anyway, like I said, this is just pretty simple concept. If you can wrap your brain around it and truly indulge in it, it really takes a lot of that weight off of, you know, just the feeling that burden of that, like she said, that checklist or that to-do list, like you're missing the mark. Because you're not staying in that.
A lot of times, at least for me, when I was, you know, growing up in kind of that's how we were taught. And, you know, you read your Bible, you pray, and, you know, and it was like, it was always do more, try harder, do more, try harder, do more, try harder. And when you're in that, I think a lot of times inside, just in your spirit, you know this isn't right. Like, this isn't what God wants from me, but this is what I'm being taught.
Right.
And so if you've been feeling that, like, it just doesn't feel right, and you're looking for answers to that, this is a good book for that. Like, to take away the pressure of that religious rules and regulations, and show you what God is really seeking from you. So
exactly, all right, guys. Well, we appreciate you guys tuning in, and like I said, we're going to be starting a new book study, so just be tuned in to that, and we'll be posting that here in the next,
hopefully on Tuesday.
Yeah, hopefully next Tuesday. So just keep your eyes peeled for that, and we'll see you Tuesday with a new book. Okay. Thanks for listening, guys. We appreciate you. Bye.